Welcome to the Perspective Podcast. Josue here. As you guys probably already know from the Democratic Republic of Congo, I'm a fellow believer. I attended the Oral Roberts University, and I preach at times, but we're not here to talk about that. And to my right, we have Mr. Chase Brown himself. He's from Texas. He attended the University of North Texas. He's an aspiring philanthropic creative, and it's June 5th, and he still loves very long walks on the beach. Why that is, I have no idea. Chase Brown, how you doing today?
Dude, doing really, really good. Went down to Austin for a couple days this week.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah. Was able to catch up with the whole crew down there and just left feeling so encouraged and just inspired. So shout out to Kyle, to Ian, to Matt, to Daniel, Austin. Can never forget Austin.
Yeah, shout out to Austin.
Kate and Grayson.
Yeah.
Y'all are super dope friends. So thank y'all so much. But
how
are you doing, bro?
I'm good, man. The sun is shining. The birds are flying.
Finally, after all this rain.
After all this rain, I feel like we're finally on the other side of that. But, we're not here to talk about us. As you guys always know, whenever, we record, we try to bring on special guests. And today we have two special guests. They're not Grammy winning. What would be the term for it?
I mean, they partner with Grammy winning artists.
Okay, they partner with Grammy winning artists.
They're brothers.
They're brothers.
First and foremost.
Yeah.
They are engineers of some amazing fashion.
They're engineer of fashion.
They have their own fashion style.
Yeah.
And friends of many of our friends.
Yeah.
So
we have Mr. Mario and Vicente. I said that correct?
Yes.
I know. I said that. I practiced. I was in my head like, I'm going to get this right.
Yeah.
Zarate?
Zarate.
There it goes. Yeah. I'm a professional. I do this. How you guys doing?
I'm doing well. I'm happy to be here. Happy you guys are here. This is our shop here in Dallas. Studio / storefront now. But you guys are home now.
Yeah.
Feeling good. I'm excited to just talk, and I love what you guys are doing, and I feel like it fits perfect time. We've been trying to do this for a while. It's been like a couple months.
A
couple months. So I'm glad it's happening now. So
it's gonna be good. And shout out to Alex for making the connection.
Yeah,
man.
He's the one, man.
Legend.
Yeah, I remember he called me and he's like, "Man, you gotta do this, bro." Like, and I'm like, "Yeah, man. Like, I'm down to do it, man." But I think the schedules and everything, it was,
He's been Alex has been one of the early on, like, really, like, big supporters that we've had. He's been like buying a lot of teas from us.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. So we've been able to create like good relationship with them, with him and a couple of his friends. I mean, you guys now.
Yeah.
But he's a great dude. So
yeah, it's so good. And we definitely, as we talked about beforehand, love to honor, the creatives, entrepreneurs, and philanthropists, we have in our life, and just bringing them on the podcast and them being able to kind of share what's going on in their life, what's going on in their brand, their art, everything like that. So I think we just go ahead and get right into it. So I think the thing that most people know y'all for, of which we talked about a little bit beforehand, is a collab that y'all did with Maverick City. So let us know just how the heck did that even happen, man? How'd that happen?
You want to share that story?
Yeah, we can share the story. I think we were on our 3rd or 4th month on business. I think we barely had like followers, and I think one night after work, I just grabbed my phone and I started DMing people. Like, I was just DMing like random artists, and one of them was Dante Bo, and I think it was like 12 a.m. or something. It's pretty late. And I was just chilling on the couch, and I'm like, you know what? Like, I'm just gonna DM him, and see what's up. Like I was like, I'm not trying to like for them to buy from me, like I'm just gonna like send them a free shirt or something. I don't know. So I remember I DM him and I was like, "Hey, what's up, bro? Like, we're a vintage store, and I don't know if you would like a free shirt." And he replied immediately. Like, he replied like in 1 minute or crazy. 2.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Wait, what?" And he's like, "Oh, I can't remember what he said, but he's like, man, I love what I'm seeing, and like, oh, I think you guys are cool." Like, right off the bat, like he loved it. And back in the day, like we barely were working on like our website, the aesthetics and like the whole design about like kind of releasing the the whole visuals, you know. But then back then, we were already had like a solid idea for our visuals and stuff. And he's like, man, like I love what I'm seeing, blah blah. Yeah, let me check out the website. And then he followed. He followed Common Rags like I don't know, like what 700
Probably
followers.
had like 600-700 followers.
Yeah.
Like, we were
So
two or
when
3
he
months in.
followed, like it was big for us,
Yeah.
low key.
Yeah.
Like it's like, oh, then like he actually followed. So that meant a lot to us in a way because it was like COVID season and like we barely had sales, but we somehow we pushed through. But let me kind of go back to a little bit before that. So our friend who was helping us out, he moved out. Like he went back to Houston. So he was the visuals, the content creator. So he
For us.
for us, and then he left home, and he kind of dipped out. Like he's like, I'm out.
COVID,
man.
Be like
everyone
that
had
sometimes,
a
yeah.
lot of
So,
stuff.
but then I think, and this is something like we really believed in. I think when you have a clear vision, like when you have something that you have, like something that you see clearly in your mind,
Yeah.
you push through. I think that's the key. Like the reason why we have this place, the reason why Common Rags is because we had consistency and a vision. I think we dedicated ourselves to like, hey, you know what, like we're gonna go for it. So our friend left, but guess what? We never stopped. So then my brother, he was able to learn Final Cut. Like you
Yeah,
can share
I've
like a little
never
bit of
like used like a camera really
Yeah.
until like I guess like the situation just made us like learn new things that we've never really known. And so I bought a camera, pretty average camera, but a camera that could, do the job. And so I learned, I had to push myself, just learn those little things, which was cool. Like having such a talented friend who, has done a lot of work in the whole visuals, videography, photos field. And so I was able to grab onto the style that Common Rags already had. There's already a DNA there. And so even though like the content was kind of like, all over the place, kind of, there was a feel and there was already a DNA to it. So when you would go on our Instagram, then 4 months in, you already kind of had a, like the vibe that it had. And so when Dante sees this, it's like, this is sick. I roll with it. And like going back to what he said, like when we were like DMing these people, like it wasn't just like, for their, following or for their success or whatever. It was people that we wanted to connect with through fashion. So we had seen Dante, like he likes to, wear cool stuff, like, like most of us. And so we kind of felt like, man, I think if he could rock some vintage pieces, like he can rock them. Like he loves fashion. And I think vintage is an upcoming fashion trend. And so we just kind of wanted to make that connection. And it just felt right. Like, because you can DM people and all day long and it's probably going to stay on the request like forever and they're not going to see it. But it just felt right. Like I think that's one of the only times we've ever done that. Like, hit up people on the DMs like, hey, like you want a free shirt? Like that's not really our style, but it just kind of felt right to do it. I don't know if we were led to doing it, but that happened and that connection begun. And he was down. He was like, let me order this. And then from him came the whole idea of a sponsorship. We're at 700 followers. We don't really have, like we're an upcoming brand, upcoming business. Like we don't really have sponsorship programs. And he was like, yo, let's create a sponsorship program where I'm still going to pay you guys, just hook me up with a discount and I'm going to put you guys on. And we're like, bet, whatever. We were just trying to send you free stuff. And we sent him a bunch of free stuff after too. But he loved it. He loved it. And it was just like we met through Instagram. And it was this like relationship via Instagram that we had. Eventually, I think we end up meeting him in person 3 months later through I think there was a recording here in Dallas that Maverick was a part of, and it was at Upper Room. So we were able to just be there. And when we said, "Hey, yo, what's up, bro?" Like, just met officially for the first time. Like, the whole Maverick City collab happened through relationship with like Dante, like just connecting with him. He did a couple, like 2 or 3 orders, just like vibing with him, and like he was telling everybody about us, and so everyone kind of hopped on eventually, like a couple of the Maverick artists, singers, and musicians, and it was just kind of like we were growing relationship with Dante, like getting to know him, and it was really cool. Like it was really, really like special. And then while that was happening, the whole Maverick collab happened, which is a funny story too. Basically, Maverick City already had heard of us. They were following us through Dante, of course.
They followed.
They were following
pretty
for
cool.
like a month. We were like, but you had a couple of already like Christian artists following.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like,
Out of the blue.
yeah, it wasn't like, oh my gosh, crazy, I'm freaking out. It was like, more,
For us, it's kind of interesting because I feel like social media is like a different world. Like all these people, famous people, influencers, they can follow you, but like in a way that doesn't mean anything.
Right,
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, they can follow you or they can be like there, but for us, like whenever all these people were following, we're like, okay, knowing myself, like I need to be like precise, like I'm not gonna be like, oh dang, I'm gonna be amazed of these people following me, So then after Dante followed, like all these people followed, and then Maverick City music followed, and it was like, all right, like I guess, like okay, it's cool,
Yeah.
So
so they were following for like about a month.
Yeah.
Like just a month. They hit us up like 2 a.m. one time.
yeah, that was funny.
They just sent a DM. They said, "Yo, let's cook something. Let's collab, like something like that." And I'm like, "Oh dang, all right, like sick. I'm down."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yeah, let's hop on a call and see what we can come up with." And then of course they like didn't respond. Like, whatever. All right. So then
Yeah.
I think there was like a couple more weeks after we had just had a pop up in July. We had a pop up in July, like late July, and that was crazy. It was like around the street at a coffee shop, and it was crazy. Like 200 people showing up, and it was just crazy. Like I've never seen so many people come up for a Common Rags event.
Especially because it was our first in-person
Yeah,
event.
in person event.
So we didn't know
first,
like okay, we done like online like drops and
Right.
our online community, but like that was kind of like the first event where we were like, okay, there's actual people.
yeah, and
like,
we didn't expect
like
anything. I honestly expected like tops like 50 people, and they were probably gonna get coffee, but I was like, dang, this is crazy. I think that's been my favorite pop up just because of the experience. COVID is happening, and you just get to see so many people like shopping for clothes. It was just really special. And so the next day we did an on Instagram live for those people that weren't able to go to the pop up, and we were trying to do like an Instagram live sale. And then what's it called? They enter the live. Maverick City enters the live, and they comment. They're like, "Yo, let's collab." Like that.
yeah, like that.
And then there's a couple of people like on the
so
live.
me knowing that again, like me knowing that the social media world is different, I was just like, all right, like he joins and like I'm about to, and then people were going crazy. It's like, oh, then like Maverick City joined, blah blah, and
the
then me like
comments.
kind of like stir it up. I'm like,
Yeah.
yo, let's collab. Like, I mean, what are you
Yeah.
gonna? Do you know what I'm saying? So, I say, oh, yo, let's collab, and then Maverick City is like, yeah, I'm down.
Like he was playing, or whoever was running the
Yeah.
social at the time was playing along with the game.
Yeah.
He's like, "Yo, I'm down." And
And
then
then he's like, text me. And he puts the his phone number, bro.
On the
On the
live.
live? Oh.
On the live. So then I'm like,
Wow.
okay, this is probably like he's trolling or
Yeah.
something, you know,
He's a
like
troll, like-
something's happening here that's like off. You know, you don't. And then people are like, oh, Maverick City, Common Rags collab, blah blah blah, and we're like, all right, whatever. Like I was like, it's too risky. It's too, it's fishy, you know. But of course, we I think I took a picture, a screenshot
we
or something
screenshot it.
of the phone number. We ended the live. We were chilling, and we were not gonna like we kind of forgot about it until like I probably
Like 2 hours.
2 hours later. We're like, let's just hit up the number and whatever, you know, like let's just find out. But it was actually the founder's phone number, and he was like on the Instagram,
Wow.
and
Yeah.
he's like, "Yo, yes, I'm down. Let's do something." And then it happened like crazy. He's like, "We're gonna be in Dallas in 2 weeks for a
Oh,
recording."
I know.
He's like, "If you guys can come up with an idea of how to collab, I'm down. Let's do it. And if you guys can make it happen." It was crazy.
Yeah,
like
crazy.
getting inventory then was hard. So imagine like, okay, a collab with Maverick City, like how, or you know, but we said yes, and we ended up connecting with his merch department. We talked about some ideas. We came to a conclusion, and in 2 weeks we had 100 like
50.
high end 150 like high end like premium vintage garments that we ended up screen printing on the back. Live recording, Dallas, Texas,
August.
August 21st, Common Rags. So it was crazy. It was there.
Yeah.
It was a huge pop up. I think over 700 or 800 people.
Really?
And
Of course,
and
like-
that's another concept that we were, because we already had the Wayward Coffee pop up,
Experience.
so we already had some type of experience of how to do pop ups, you know. So then, kind of like brainstorming with the Maverick City people, like we were like, you know what, like I think it would hit if we do a pop up,
Like a pop up experience.
you know, like and I mean, this is a time where we didn't know each other. Like it's just everything through DMs. Like it can be like a virtual person out on the other side, you know, like
got a robot messaging.
yeah.
back.
So then we're on the
Yeah.
group text, and they don't know us. I mean, we're pretty small at that time. Like you know, like okay, how can I trust you? And how can it was risky
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
for them, you know, like and then we kind of like put it out there, you know what, like we can do a pop-up. So low key, like that time, like we kind of also risk it because we were kind of like, you know what, like we'll take care of it. Like we
So we planned like logistics, visuals, like everything that was going to be a part of the pop up experience, Maverick City, Common Rags. Like we created the model of what that pop up looks like, and it became a thing to where we ended up doing 8 more. How
Yeah,
more?
like
We ended
8.
up doing 8 more. Well, we did a 6-city stop tour with Maverick eventually.
nice.
So it was that like organic model that was created from that 2-week preparation pop up that we had, and there was a model that created like that came out of that, which was basically fashion. What was it? Fashion. Where there was
Hype.
like the hype culture, which we represent a lot. You know what is happening today in like fashion and hype culture, and in worship too. So that was a really unique model where we had like street worship. You know, you can't gather to, you know, it's August. Churches are still with a lot of restrictions, lockdowns. Some churches are not even open. And that's where we created the street worship. We can worship on the street. And so it was just cool seeing like Chandler like walking with a guitar and like singing, and people like outdoors singing. And
Yeah.
that was like a really cool concept and model that came out of this, where we ended up doing a tour with them, going to like 6 cities. And it was just a model that was so organic that ended up, I think to this day they are still doing it. You know, we're not doing it with them anymore, but they are still doing it. And so it's just like cool seeing from a 2 week
Yeah.
preparation and like what I don't know what it looks like, but it was like the organicness of building that concept and blessing other people and
Yeah.
Yeah.
being a thing. I think that's like the cool thing. It's a thing now. People are like the pop-ups, like they know exactly what happens there.
Yeah.
So that was a really cool experience. We weren't even a year old when all that was happening. I think it was like 7 months into the business, and just kind of like had to have that fast
Yeah.
growth. But it was cool. It was special for sure. That season was
Yeah.
super. It was a blessing to us for the business. We got to meet a lot of cool people, make a lot of relationships and friendships and all that good stuff that comes with those events. So that was a cool.
Yeah, that was sick.
Yeah.
That was a little cool thing.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. One of the things that I was kind of hearing from what you guys were saying, I kept seeing you smile at moments like throughout the story that you guys were sharing. So I guess my follow up question to that was, in the matter of 2 weeks, you guys came up and did so many different things that led to so many other things, right? How did you guys, I guess, even prepare for that, right? Because that could be something that's really stressful, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is we need this done in 2 weeks, and you got to prepare. As you mentioned, you guys were kind of newer at the time,
Yeah.
as well.
I think for us, since day one, we're very strong believers. Like we believe in Jesus, and since we started, I think one of the things that we know for sure is that God is leading this whole business, like for sure. Like going back to the story with Dante Bo, like following, it's like that was I would not say random, but it's like the grace that was there, like by just following. Like we were nobodies. I mean, like we barely had like 600, 700 followers.
Yeah.
And by him replying super fast, like we found out, like he doesn't even reply
he doesn't.
to text messages.
Yeah.
Like he does
Yeah.
not reply.
Like you have to
Like-
FaceTime him and maybe he'll pick up. But he's known as like the worst, like texter.
Yeah.
Pick up. He doesn't answer the phone like to nobody. Like
So
Yeah.
so going back to that, like I think for us, like since day one, like I think we're confident that God is leading this whole thing, that his grace and his favor and everything, he's taking us to those doors, he's taking us to those people. So for that 2 week process, even finding inventory, like I remember like we were stressed and then there's this thing, like there's this DNA for us, like we tend to push, like we tend to like we're gonna do it, like we have this driven force inside of us that we make it happen somehow. But at the end, we kind of like we don't rely to that fully, but we were kind of like, you know what, like we gotta pray, we gotta ask God to help us out, And even in that 2 week process, like we were stressing, but it's funny, but I can recall like every single chapter where God, like we were struggling, we were like, oh, what should I do, what should we do, but God came through and like boom, like out of nowhere, like I said, the Maverick City collab, like we never asked for that, like it was never like on our plans to collab with them, like it just happened. So that's something like we have a very, very like sure that it's not about my charisma, my personality, like it's just something that we're just measuring as how God is giving those open doors.
Yeah, it's the favor
Yeah.
that the Father brings on that.
Yeah.
And it's so good because I think two things that you said. One, it was never y'all's intention to kind of like have any of this happen. I think the Father can work so well whenever like one, we have pure intentions, or from there, whenever we're just like open to like whatever he has for us. Like there's no ulterior motive. There's no like, oh, I want to try to get to this. Like we're just open to what he has. And then from there, like he's able to like lead us step by step in that.
And I think like what you're saying, that a little bit about us and how we started, when we started Common Rags, it was purely for fun.
Yeah.
Like that was one of the things that we knew, like we wanted to start something that was fun for us to do. Like we love fashion, and what a cool way to like open up like some type of like website that has like cool vintage clothing. You know, like that was
Yeah.
a very basic concept of like I just want to do something cool for my friends to see, for my friends to shop, and you know, just something cool. And I think like what you were saying is like we were never like it was never an intention of like creating a business and this is gonna be my full time. This is gonna be where like my money comes in. Like it was never like we never saw it like that. It was always like I want to release something cool. I want to, you know, it was just kind of what was in us, putting it in onto a project.
Yeah.
When I think when you start a business and you want it to thrive, and there's that pressure of like I have this and it needs to thrive and it needs to have some type of success, but it was never like that for us. And I think that was super cool, like how God led us to start it in that way, that direction,
Mm-hmm.
for that, you know, whenever everything starts to happen, it's like, you know, like we know why we started doing this, why this is happening.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just really key to know. And like you're never gonna be ready. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like if you would have asked me then, are you guys ready to create a pop-up experience and find premium vintage? And you know, like if you would have asked me like, are you guys ready for that then? I probably would have said no, but I don't think you're ever ready. Like you're just
Yeah.
never, you're always gonna say no, I'm not ready. But it's like you gotta just kind of put yourself there, and
Yeah.
that's what gets you ready. Doing it, that process of it.
And trust that, like, if you get pushed back, like, past what you think the boundaries of yourself are, like, that's where you start to depend on God even more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at that point, like, there's no way for you to be able to boast. Like, it's literally like all in His
Yeah.
glory right there.
Yeah.
Like, and
Yeah.
it's so cool. And I think something that I read this 2 weeks ago. I've read this verse a number of times, so it hit me again like a couple weeks ago that I think is an encouragement for y'all, because you brought up, related to Josue's question, like all these memories that kind of come up and just like the smile and joy that comes with it. In Psalms, it says, the memory of the righteous is a blessing. And it's something that is so cool, because it's just like, if y'all during this whole time were, you know, like trying to like sneakily make all this stuff happen and like pop off and like all this stuff,
Yeah.
like you wouldn't be able to have like the fullness of joy that comes with like God's presence being in every single one of those moments.
Yeah. It's good.
And so it's so cool, and I want to encourage y'all in that I
Yeah.
think like there is a purity there that is
Yeah.
rare, especially in like entrepreneurial environments
Yeah.
today,
Yeah.
and unfortunately Christian entrepreneurial environments too.
Yeah.
And it's so cool. So then from there, where did the name Common Rags come from? Like what even happened with that?
We actually get that question a lot, and it's kind of hard to answer because it was like one of those things that you just say something and that's what it is, you know? And so like I think it was so like, that's what, you know, going back to it, just like it was all so perfect, so like God, you know, we thought we were doing something like that start something, but there was a purpose behind all of it, you know. Now we are seeing it. And so then I think we were having coffee before work. We were going to work, and we were having coffee. We were talking about starting something, and we were really determined.
Yeah.
That's for sure. We didn't know what it looked like, what it was. We knew it had to do with vintage clothing, and online Instagram driven shop, and that's all we knew. That's all we knew. And so we sat down. We were just looking through stuff, and I go into work. I think it was on a Sunday evening. We were going into work. Who works Sundays? I don't know. But we were going into work, and I was working, and I'm on my phone, just like, I don't know what I was doing. And then I created a Instagram account to play around with like usernames. And so I don't know why I had this like word in my mind, and it was like common. Like it was just, that's all I knew. So I was like literally trying like common, what would be a good name for us for what we're doing. And then just rags kind of hit, and I was like, wait, vintage clothing is old clothing. You know, anything vintage is like 20 years or older. So they're like shirts that a lot of people can see right now as like ill, that has like some paint on it, has some wear, has some holes on it. And they're like, you know, just like not very appreciated by a lot of people. So they're, you know, they're considered old pieces of clothing or old pieces of a piece of cloth, you know. And so rags, and I was like, wait, like, kind of makes sense, you know. It kind of fits. Like, we're gonna be selling vintage clothing. That's our DNA. Common rags, you know, it's gonna become common, and it was just like making sense in my head. It was all like connecting, and then I go onto like the Instagram account and I put common rags, and it was like available, and I was like freaking out because I don't like anything that has like, or at least for a brand, I wouldn't like anything that has like an underscore or like a period, or I don't know, you know, it's just like
I hear you on that.
I think
That's real.
of like Supreme New York, or like,
Yeah.
you know, I look up to those brands, Kith, you know, like it's just that. And so for me, I was like, dude, this is so sick. Like, I don't even know what it's gonna be like. I don't know what it, but I'm keeping this user. And then that same night, we went back home, and this is like not knowing what we're gonna do. And we bought the domain online.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, well, we have the Instagram, we have the domain. Now, like, what do we do? Kind of deal. But it was just like all within that same day. Like, it was very like precise, you know, God leading us to do this, us actually putting our like, okay, we're gonna put our mind into this. Like, we're gonna go all in. And that same day, like, we had the name, the Instagram, and the domain, like all in like one evening, one
Yeah.
night, which is crazy.
I mean, that's really crazy to think about, because I know trying to come up with a name for a brand, you know, even coming up with a name for like an Instagram or social media
Yeah.
account can be challenging, you know. But if it's something that sticks, you know, it just sticks and everybody, you know,
Yeah.
resonates.
Yeah, and
That's
I
probably a
wasn't
better
really
word.
like I don't think we were feeling it very
Yeah.
much. Like, I was like, well, I think we even tried to like come up, you know, continue, but it kind of grew on us. Like, man, this is it. Like, this
Yeah.
is really it. And even like the logo as well, like, was super. We were trying to find the logo, which was the other thing,
Yeah.
and we got the logo, and
Yeah.
it didn't. I was like, I'm not a big fan of it, and it just like it resonates. Like
Yeah.
everything like is like the name, the logo. It just sticks out, resonates, and feels right. Feels in place.
Yeah, and there's like depth to it. There's symbolic depth to it, because it was the same thing with perspectives, to where there's a essentially like a class that's offered by another charity called Frontiers USA, that class is called Perspectives, and they own the domain perspectives.org. And so whenever we were creating the charity, I like the Lord gave me the name like Perspectives Worldwide, and I was kind of like, God, like, I don't know about this, man.
Yeah.
Like, they could confuse us with this or this, but like, he just affirmed it over and over again. And there's so many layers of depth to it that applies to kind of the mission for us of wanting to change, you know, individual by individual perspective. And then from there, that changes, you know, on average, the culture and the worldview and everything like that, more towards like a biblical worldview, honoring the Father and everything like that.
That's sick.
So I think it's so cool
Yeah.
to see that y'all did the same thing with that
Yeah.
and going along with that. So
Yeah. It's I've tried to like come up with other stuff like, and it's not as easy as it was that, you know.
Yeah,
It's
it's
like
not.
like how I'm trying to like think and like remember what did I do that day that made me like that everything was just so like,
Yeah.
easy and smooth. But I mean, it's just, you know, God, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I
really
even
is.
had that with shameless plug. I mean, my own Instagram, right? Like whenever I was trying
Shameless
to come up with my name for my Instagram. So my Instagram name is Butterman, right? And so people just call me Butter. Like that just became a thing. And so I was literally sitting in the kitchen. It's a shameless plug. I gotta do it. I was sitting in the kitchen, so this way no one else asks me what it is. I'm sitting in the kitchen, and I just deleted my other Instagram like 6 months ago. And so I'm trying to come up with something new. And I'm sitting in the kitchen, I'm like, nothing's sticking, nothing's working. And I was like, ooh, I can't believe it's not butter, you know, because for some reason I saw it outside. I saw the can that butter came in, and I was like, nah, that's too long, that's too long. And so I was like, ooh, what about Butterman? You know, so that was just this revelation that came to me, and I was
That's-
like, okay, cool. And so I just put that and made it as a name, but I wasn't thinking anything of it.
yeah.
But it took on this personality of its own. Not that I'm like not a person, but it just
Yeah,
became a name that people kind of recognize. And
That's awesome.
Not that it's the same thing as you guys, but
No, it kind of is. You know, like
yeah.
that's a cool. That's a really.
It's really nice.
That's a
I wish
cool
it was a better
user.
story that
That's a cool
Revelation, an
user,
angel
man.
came down or something like
My
that.
user just my name, man.
But along those lines, you know, I'm thinking about like, you know, so talk to us about, you know, for those that, you know, probably in a similar space, you know, whether it's fashion or just business related, you know, you guys are businessmen. You know, you're talking about things were just coming to you. You know, just almost it seemed like naturally, or maybe if not naturally, but through grace and favor and stuff like that. So, for a believer, how do you encourage someone who's wanting to start a business and being able to not strive so much,
Yeah.
but leaning into God to provide, you know, inspiration and wisdom and things like that?
Yeah, I think the number one thing that we have, as far as like, I mean, it's cool doing business like when we're like siblings, which is, you know, it's really cool doing that. But one of the things, like when it comes into business, like it's different, and the entrepreneurial like season that we're living, because you know it's these last couple of years, people are starting up businesses, and you know it's become a thing, you know, starting things. But I think that we've seen in our culture and in our generations, like these past generations, like my generation, like a lot of people start something but they don't finish it. And so I think, like, you know, me being honest, me calling myself out and calling, like, you know, I'm 22. Like, I've seen it over and over and over. Like, people start something, they launch something cool, launch cool graphics on Instagram. I'm starting a business, I'm starting whatever.
Or the famous phrase, big moves.
Big moves,
Big moves coming, yeah.
Like, I remember I even posted something, big moves 2020. You know, like I was one of them. But I think once you're there, you're like, the key is consistency. Like
Yep.
that really is like
Yeah.
anyone can start a business, and it can like be whack, and it can just be terrible concept. But if you're consistent on what you're doing and you believe in it, and you're just more than you honestly, there was many times that I didn't believe in what I was doing, but I was consistent and I was committed to that.
Yep.
And so that was because of that, because it's a decision that you kind of just have to make. Being committed and consistent is what, you know, like that grace. Also, it has to be tied down to that. But that just commitment and consistency. He mentioned a little earlier, we started late January of 2020. We didn't know COVID was a thing until like a month later. Like
No
it was
one did.
probably a few weeks, and like everything was shut down. Like
It was already happening in China.
I haven't like I didn't hear about it at all. And then
Yeah.
2 weeks later, like my school was like shut down. Like
Yeah.
it was crazy, you know. And so the hype is here of the business, you know, friends and family supporting it. Oh, the hype, cool. And then everyone just kind of like everything's happening. You know, everything you don't want is happening. And so for us, we don't have vintage clothing to sell to anybody. No one's buying because a lot of people are losing jobs. So many factors.
Then Pablo leaves.
And then our friend leaves back home. We're like with a broken leg, you know, no anything.
Yeah.
But we decided to find a way to continue pushing and being consistent. So we used to do drops every Sunday night. Every Sunday night we had on our online website we had a drop.
Yep.
And through COVID, I don't know how we did it. I don't know where the pieces were coming from, but every weekend we had a drop. And sometimes we made $0, sometimes we made $30. Like it was one of those things that we were consistent, we were committed, we kept going every week until it has to take on shape, it takes on forming. And so like in those months, it was a few months that it was just dry, no business, no anything. I'm thinking about like, all right, should I just quit? Am I gonna like am I making a fool out of myself? But just that commitment and that consistency, being consistent, that leads to all of that. So anyone who's like starting up a business, I always tell them like, bro, I love it, or bro, I think you can make it better. But if you believe in it and you're consistent on it, you're gonna see success, because that word is really broad, but you're gonna see some type of response. Be consistent, be, committed to that. And so that's what I would
Yeah.
tell someone that starts up a business. Consistency is like will take you.
Yeah, and I think also like I think our generations are really struggling with consistency, like be
Yeah.
consistent. I mean we see it on social media, like the oh I want to be rich, I want to be wealthy, like the fast, like I want it now, like the
Yeah.
so I think that's a problem, to be honest. And like all these people have like amazing ideas, like I'm like dreams, to be honest. Like, but then like you gotta come down to a reality where, okay, you want to do it, but like you need to push through. Like I think there's, in my opinion, I think there's some few people that they're built for that. Because there's a lot of discouragement. Like I wake up on a Monday, Tuesday morning, and I'm like, oh, freak, like, I haven't sold like more shirts, like, oh, then I want to fix my shop. Or I don't know. Like, there are things that come through like on the daily, but I need to be like thinking that, okay, I need to deal with this right now, but I know that the future is holding something better.
Yeah. Dr. Miles Monroe, rest in peace. He said that the graveyard is the richest place on earth, right? Because there
Yeah.
you'll find all sorts of dreams that never, came to pass,
Yeah.
right? Books that weren't written, songs that weren't written, things that weren't designed. The graveyard is just filled with those type of things. So,
Yeah.
for you guys as brothers and as people, where does that? You guys keep saying consistency, and you mentioned a word earlier. I forgot what it was. I'll go back and listen to it. Think about it. But was it? Yeah, commitment. There he goes. You remember everything.
Hey.
You're a professional. What is that? Where does that come from? Is that something from like your family? Did you guys learn that
Yeah.
growing up, or what does that drive really come from for you guys?
I mean, we are. So I was born in Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
So we come from a Hispanic family, like very, very strong. So then my parents got converted when I was like, I mean, my mom got converted first when I was a kid, like 4 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Then my dad came to Christ when I was like 10. So I think that change in our lives, like it was very big, like very big. Like I think that for us, like as kids, like we were kind of like, okay, we see the difference, like this is for good. So then moving to the States, also when we were kids, I think my everything comes from my family, like my parents. Like I think
Yep.
everything that we are doing right now, or the quote unquote success that we have right now, is because of them. Like I think even though they came to this country and like work hard and everything, we had every time like at 3 p.m. like we would like sit together and like we would eat together, and like my dad would like share like stories and like give those life lessons, like all about commitment, all about like just values, like I think for me, like I've been reflecting on that like for the past couple of weeks. Like if it wasn't for that, I would be like, I don't know what I'll be doing right now, to be honest. But I think even I remember like I'm not into video games. Like we're not into video games. Like
Nothing against video games.
yeah, but there was one time where my dad, he's like, all right, so I guess I'm gonna. We're not big on Christmas either, but I remember one Christmas, like he's like, all right, like I'm gonna take you guys to Best Buy or something, and he bought us a Xbox 360, like the ultimate,
newest,
like
yeah.
like limited edition. I think it was like Call of Duty,
Modern
something like that.
Warfare.
Like it was pretty expensive, and we were like, man, like heck yeah, man, like all my friends, all these people are having an Xbox 360,
Mm-hmm.
So I remember like we got into video games. I think I was like 15, like you were what,
like 10.
10, something like that. So we got into video games and like we were like, man, like this is sick. This is so cool. But the more we got into video games, like playing and stuff, my dad was seeing like, man, like I think I made a mistake by buying a Xbox 360, you know. So then summer comes in, and then I think you guys super
I was
like
super
into
addicted
it.
to Call
So
of Duty.
he was like just like spending hours
Yeah.
like playing video games, and my dad was like, no, this is bad. Like this isn't like I don't want my kid
Yeah.
playing video games.
It was
video
like
games
those
for-
summers, like you know, you have 3 months off,
Yeah.
and you're just
and
playing.
that's all you do.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
So-
so I think it got to like my dad too. Like this is a funny story. He would actually, you know how like the wireless controls like have the batteries.
Yeah.
So like that was like the worst thing like he could ever do, and is like he would take the batteries to work.
Yeah.
So he left me the Xbox,
Damn.
but I cannot play.
Yeah.
So like, it was like I was like that was like my rebellious phase. Like the video games, like you're taking like the best thing I have right now.
So then my dad, so then he was like, no, I don't want you guys to be playing video games. So it's either you guys come to work with me or you guys go to summer school.
Okay.
We were kind of like, why? Like we were like on our teenage years, and we're like, nah, like this is our time, you know?
Just have fun.
So
yeah.
I reflect on that, and I think that was the greatest thing that happened to
Mm-hmm.
us, because why we developed this entrepreneurial mindset. Like after him, like after my dad taking the batteries, like he had to go to summer school, and he went.
Yeah.
You went to a community college.
So I was in. I had entered the summer of when I graduated 8th grade. So I was going into high school. That summer, like that was when like my dad was like, "You either go work with me or go to summer school." So I was like, "I don't want to go work. Like I'll just go to school." And so that's where that was the first summer that the summer school that we would go to, it was actually a community college. They can take like students from the age of like 15.
Yeah,
15. So I'm like in a college, like a legit college with like I was 15. Like there's like
Yeah.
college students there, and I'm 15. I think my first class I took was like history, like
U.S. history.
which is like a high school class. So, but
and then you
it just
took speech.
yeah,
too.
it took speech,
Oh.
like communication stuff, like
You
yeah.
took,
And so
like,
anyway,
the-
like it was all this, which it all kind of connects. I actually ended up graduating. Well, I had fallen behind in elementary school, so I like flunked a grade. But when I was, I think in 8th grade going into freshman year, I actually ended up graduating high school in 3 years
Okay.
because of all those credits that I had from
Yeah.
summer school. Like I literally had a year worth of credits from university. Like I was like, well, might as well just graduate early. So it was like a lot of these things that we saw growing up. Like my dad was committed to his family, to us. Like, you know, one of the things that we see in like our culture too is that we live in a very busy and fast world. Like everything is like, let's go. And I think we fall into it. Like we tend to be like that. And all right, we're here now. We got to go do this, now that. And by the time we're done, it's like, you know, I'm sleeping at 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. You know, like it's a very fast paced world. But something that we saw from our parents was like their commitment to, we're going to have dinner at 4 p.m. as a family. And we're going to talk about like how our days like was, you know, like it was just this thing that became a thing, you know, everyone had to eat. Like, I don't care if you're hungry or not, but you're going to sit on the table. And there was this sense of like we come from a very strong, like bond family, you know?
Okay.
And so I think, we love our parents. We are so grateful for what they've done for us and poured into our lives. They own a business, and we have seen how hard they've worked for that. You know, they didn't have the social media, like they're not super techie, but they found a way. Their way of expanding business was through business cards. We don't even have business cards. My business card is like Instagram
It's
or
a follower,
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's like. But I've seen like going door by door and like business cards and all that stuff. Like they've made the way kind of deal,
Yeah.
like for us to follow that same pattern and route, but doing it better. Our parents have always wanted us to do things better, and like they strong believers in Jesus and how they've tried their best to raise up two kids, and we're super grateful. Like that's where a lot of these like principles that we have, these foundations, even business foundations,
Yeah.
like it's something that
Yeah.
we've seen like in their business, being ethical, doing things right. Like it's just kind of like a DNA that was passed down to us that we can now put into what we're doing, and even outside of business, like
In
I
personal
think,
life,
yeah, personal life, like
Yeah.
100%. It's something that we try and put it before anything. So that's where that
Yeah.
comes from. Yeah.
Dang, it's so good. I mean, and we've never met your parents, but I could definitely see just the impact that they had on y'all and that God had on y'all's life through them. And it's something that's so good because I 100% agree with, consistency and commitment. Some of our friends, we are in a way sponsored and partnered with a brand called Alphalete down in Houston. They're a fitness brand, pretty large social media presence. But talking to them, a year or so ago now, gosh, can barely speak. They were saying how, no one is going to care about your vision more than you.
Mhm.
And it's something of like, speaking to consistency, like people and your friends aren't going to take you seriously until like you take yourself seriously and trust in what God has given you as far as
Yeah.
vision and
Yeah.
mission goes. And from there, like demonstrate that consistently. And so it's so good because being able to have the Father give that to you from a young age and develop that is
Yeah.
so good. Because that's something also that I was going to say is like, we started up Perspectives whenever I was 23 or 24, one of the two. And so
Wow.
y'all starting up Common
Yeah.
Rags whenever
Yeah.
was, I'm assuming 25
Yeah.
and 21,
21.
pretty
Yeah.
much. Yeah. And so it's something that like, I think that is so rare and like commendable. And I want to encourage y'all in that because we can often look down on young people as like, oh, well, they need to just go get their education. They need to learn and all this
Yeah.
stuff. Where it's like, all right, well, we know in Timothy, like Paul encourages us, hey, like don't look down on the young,
Yeah.
Yeah.
for the youth. And also starting up something young gives you so much time to be able to learn
Yeah.
and make mistakes and look at things in the long term rather than being like, oh, wait, I'm 30 years old and like I'm probably going to have kids in a few years. So I need to get it
Yeah.
now and I
Yeah.
need to get it right now. And you have time to be able to refine everything.
Yeah.
So-
No, yeah, for sure. We're super grateful. Even like I think like mentors and leaders, like we've always, I guess that's one of the things that we've also learned is like just listen to someone who's older than you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's just, I love old people for that. They've lived so much more. They know kind of like what life is like. And so I feel like when you're young, you tend to be stubborn. You think you want to enjoy life and do all this stuff. But it's like, there are people who already lived, like make it easy on yourself and just seek counsel,
Yeah.
seek help, seek advice. Like I don't know, it's just what like our big thing is like how can we simplify things, simplify life,
Yeah.
people out there don't have the answers for your problems, but there's something that this person did when he was 20, and now him sharing that person that story or that experience helps you grow and take a better way, or it's just
Yeah.
growth, growth and being aware of that. So
Yeah, yeah. So then from here, because something that y'all said before we started recording is, and I want to get it right, is it's a good thing when more people know Common Rags than us in terms
Yeah.
of speaking about y'all too. But something I want to do to be able to honor y'all, just kind of share whatever like God leads you to and just like your personal stories. And then from there, share about just kind of like where y'all are planted at, mentors, every fathers in your faith, everything like that.
yeah, I mean that's It's a good thing. I remember hearing this from a video somewhere. I was probably 14, 15. And it was this pastor that said, I know that I'm a good leader when I get myself out of a job for someone. I trained up someone to do it better than me in getting myself out of that job, getting myself out of that task. And so that's what a true leader, that's like a true leader, because I think a lot of the times we want to be, it goes back to like the generation that we're in and like what we're living. Like we want to be seen, we want to be recognized, we want to be, have the followers and the following and that success. That's like, I guess, the definition of success for many young people, even not even as young, but that's the definition of success. And so I remember hearing that, and it just always like stuck like with me. And I was like, man, I want to train up someone, or not me being seen all the time, or like it's not about me. It's not about what I can do and how much I can flex and show off and this is my business, this is what I do. And I think that it's just listening to others, listening. It's not about you. And I think when people come to us and tell, just, oh, you guys are the common rags, like you guys are common rags, like I'm like, yeah, that's like us. But it's cool, like the fact that this business has blessed in a way others, you know what I mean? Like it's this that we've created with all these principles and all these like upbringings, how common rags can impact someone's life, or even if it's to a simple thing of like, I got a shirt from you guys and I didn't know it was you guys, and so that's always like a good feeling, like, dang, that's cool. Like they know common rags. They don't need to know me. Like, you know what I mean? Like usually a lot of people know Nike and they don't know like the brain that was behind
Or
Nike.
the founder.
Yeah,
The
true.
founder, the CEO, like, but they are the ones. That's the brain, but they know Nike. And so I think it's rewarding for them too. Like,
Yeah.
so that's one thing. Like we always just, seek counsel. Like
Yeah.
our parents, of course. Just, I mean, anything that can help us, like anything that we know that will expand our mind and our, we take it. We take it. It's just like you take something, you leave something out, And so that's been one of the things that we have always been like super grateful for, just leaders, our local church,
Yeah.
and just we love community, and wherever community's at, we like to be there, And so we like to create common rags as a community as well. And so this community is strong. It helps, it strengthens, and it's just powerful. It's more than just an individual. It's just more than a founder, a creator of something. It's something stronger.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's something that we try to be very consistent on, like seeking counsel. And like I graduated from Dallas Baptist University in
Shout out
business.
to BBU.
Yeah.
Shout out to them. What was that?
No.
Oh, okay. I thought that was like a sign
like,
for
shout out
BBU
to
or something like
BBU.
that. Okay, I got you.
So
Patriots.
even in that, so I did business over there. Even in that, like, even I feel like, dang, like, this is huge, like managing a whole business by yourself. And then keep in mind that we don't have no investors. Like we have no one involved. Like just us two, and like in the whole decision making and stuff. So we rely on like people that we trust, and also I think on our daily walk with the Lord, I think that's also like a blessing too, because I mean I think you can be so like, oh, I need to build this thing, I need to build my business. But if you're not walking with the Lord consistently, like then it's kind of like, oh, then like you can forget about things. And then because we know that He gives us the wisdom, and like He gives us those open doors, so now I need to be consistent with the Lord and those people that there's like so that they're there for us,
Yeah.
you know, and then be and then one thing that also like for me it's a blessing is that I get to be at church. So I get to serve during the week.
Mm.
So that's a blessing. Like that's one of the things that for me when I was growing up, I was like, man, like I want to have a business because like I want to be involved in other things.
Mm.
Like I feel like when you have also a business and when you have a business like you're owner of your time. You gotta be very, very disciplined, of course, you know, to make that happen.
Mhm.
So now that we have common racks and I have a job too, I get to be more involved at church.
Mhm.
So that's a blessing.
Yeah.
Like Mondays, Wednesdays, Tuesdays, being there is like oh dang, it's a blessing.
Midday.
The midday is like
People
like,
working the 9 to 5.
yeah, and then
But-
we're there, you know.
Yeah, it's a
And
blessing.
so also it's a blessing because we know that God is it's there, you know, like God is leading us and might as well just serve, you know,
Yeah.
like be part of the community at church and
Yeah.
stuff.
I think like the definition of success is it's so deceiving.
Mhm.
I think what people see as successful or what their definition of success is kind of like sets them up for whatever is coming, you know. And so I think, I mean, everyone has a different definition of success, but I think that, you know, where does the knowledge come from? Where does the inspiration come from? And we being in this business, it's a lot of having a fresh mind, you know, a renewed mind, because you know you're coming up with concepts, you're coming up with ideas, you're coming up with uh, designs, like it's just all in here. And so like, how can whatever you have in here, how can that really be successful in your own definition, you know? And I
Yeah.
think that's where we seek the Lord. Like, Lord, like what is like seeking him is just like everything comes after that, you know. It says first seek the kingdom of God, and you know, and so that's really it. Like, seek the Lord, you know, and the inspiration to like, we release a t-shirt, the future's bright t-shirt, that we really encounter the concept and the message of the future is bright, you know, like everything being so dark for me in one season, personally, like going through just a lot of stuff, a lot of things, and encountering that message that God had really revealed himself through that. And then now people are, you know, like we released that design, we released that t-shirt, and now it's like people are encountering, but it's through God, you know, encountering us through that message, and
Yeah.
then being a blessing to others. And so that's like really where inspiration comes from. Like, God puts the definition of success, you know, like for some it looks like having a family and pastoring, or having a business, or being faithful working at the DMV, you know, like it looks different for everybody. And I
Yeah.
think understanding like what kind of God has placed before you and what he like what his definition of success for you is, like, and staying committed to that, that's like important to know.
Yeah.
Like, where does God have you?
Yeah,
and,
that's
and
good.
like what's your season like? You know, like I had to work at a calling center for 2 years and I'm still kind of there. I'm trying to quit, you know, like shout out my manager. But like, you know what I mean? Like it's like that commitment of like that season. Like, I was double timing. Like, I was putting 40 plus hours for Common Rags and working 30 hours there. Like, that's what my season looked like then. And now I'm at a place where like God is transition, like he's putting transition in my path, and like now I'm starting to get ready for that. And so it's just like, what's your season like right now?
Yeah.
What does it look like for you, you know? And for business, you know, I don't think businesses grow this fast. Honestly, I'm like super grateful for everything that we've seen, but you know, there's people that have been in business. We know a great designer, a good friend of ours who's been in the fashion world. He knows what he's doing, and he's been on it for 3 years, and now it's barely taking off. And so it's just commitment, and he's a believer and he knows what his seasons look
Yeah.
like. So it's just you gotta really know what your season looks like, and being obedient, like
Yeah.
submitting onto that. I think that's where success comes.
Yeah.
That's where like God honors that. And all right, now you're ready for level 2 or whatever that is.
Yeah.
So that's super important to be aware of that. Like
Yeah.
your season, your timing. What did God put in front of you, and what are you doing that with that? It's stewarding that. So
Yeah, it's kind of crazy because you actually answered the question I was just about to ask you, because I was, in my mind, I'm thinking you guys are like thought leaders, right? You put the future as bright. Somebody sees that, they might be going through something. And then simply being able to see that, it's like, okay, I'm going through a tough time right now, but I'm reminded that the future is bright. So it's awesome being able to get that inspiration that allows you to speak into people's lives
Yeah.
simply through what you put,
Yeah.
on a t-shirt.
and it's cool to see, like, we are Christians, we're believers. Our brand is not like a faith-based like brand, like putting verses on a tee. Like I love like vintage like Jesus tees. I love them. Our brand is like not like, targeted to just Christians, but it's like, what's something that, how can we release hope? And where does that hope come from?
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like that, like, even we have people like who may be going through stuff and they're not believers, but they are finding something, and it leads them to something else, which is Jesus. And so like, it's just really like we are a brand that, past collections that we release, it's very optimistic. That's our focus, our messages. There's so many like dark brands, like like cool brands that I even like look up to, but they go kind of like the negative side, like the like the system is like all that stuff. And so like, it's like, how can I be different with like what I'm encountering with life? How can I release something different?
I mean, I can even ask you this. To that point, is there ever that temptation to just, because obviously being Christians, I feel like we've talked about this a lot of times where Christians just want you to put Jesus on everything, right? Get a shirt and put Jesus on it, and that's a Christian, like apparel. Is there ever that temptation or that feedback from others to want to do that?
I don't think there's a temptation to do that, because I mean, we see that older people are doing it.
Yeah.
It's all right. Like there's some people already doing that.
Yeah.
So then I think the key right here with us is like, how can I create substance? I think that's big for us. Like, okay, why are you buying this shirt? Like why? So now whenever we think or whenever we analyze, whenever we are like designing a shirt, it's like, what's gonna be the substance that my shirt is gonna carry? Because you can go through the racks here and like, all right, like I'm just gonna buy a 90s shirt, like, okay, cool. But when it comes to the designing process, kind of I'm a kind of like go off a little bit.
No, you got
when it comes to the brand, it's like we gotta create some type of substance. When we released this shirt, I thought it was kind of cool because like God gave me like this whole thing, like I was like, man, like I see people wearing this shirt as like a powerful thing, like you wear it and like you're wearing hope. That was my visual in my mind. I was like, man, you're gonna wear hope.
It's so big.
Yeah. And then you
It is
carry,
big.
and then I was seeing I was seeing like this picture in my head. I was like, you put it on, and then you're embraced by this thing. Like something is gonna hold you.
It's like putting the
way.
Batman suit.
Yeah. I don't want to go there, but like kind of
Okay.
like that visual kind of deal. So that's something I see. Like, so I think that's the intention. Like, I think we can demonstrate, like we can show Jesus through that process, like, because there's some cool brands out there like that they're releasing like Jesus tees and like that Christian apparel, like I think it's so cool. Like I think also I'm gonna make reference of I think we're evolving. Like the Christian community, it's really evolving on how to release Christian merch. Even that's something that I've been noticing. Like I think there's no longer your cringe like Christian,
Like your church merch.
yeah, apparel.
Yeah.
It's just like there's more thought now. Like I've seen a lot of brands that they're putting a lot of thought, and like I think it's super sick. I think it's very creative because now we're expressing better, like the Christian community. Like we're expressing because imagine like Off White or Louis Vuitton or like all these people. Like I'm like, man, like I question myself. I'm like, we should have like all the inspiration because
Yeah.
God created us.
Exactly.
Like we believe in that. So why are these people like leading the way? Like I think a lot of people question that too. So me as a I don't want to call myself designer, but me as like whenever we try to design, like we're thinking on that process of like how can we release on top of like substance, this force that whenever, like I said, whenever people are gonna wear this my piece, like they're gonna feel something different, and that's what we like target, and that's my prayer in a way. Like there's some type of like feeling, some type of like expectancy, emotion whenever they wear my pieces, and I know like there's like yeah, like a lot of people are releasing pieces, but like what's the motive behind it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I definitely think the church has done a better job over the last 10, 20 years at like embracing and developing creativity
Yeah.
that's inspired by the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
Like, because I feel like we mention them every podcast, but Axel, who's underneath Mercy Culture, led by Jasmine Tate and some of our friends,
Wow.
they pretty much their whole thing is just housing and equipping creatives.
Wow.
And I think Upper Room has a similar sort of initiative, I guess
Yeah.
you could say. And so it was something for the longest time, like just like no, we saw that as like
Yeah.
a cultural kind of thing. That's just
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
oh, this is not of God and stuff like that.
No, that's true.
And so I definitely think as the church continues to lean into that it's something that we'll see more people like y'all being able
Yeah.
to start things up. And so I think one of the last two topics that we can cover is you mentioned it before the podcast and during our conversation is like y'all liking to be busy, liking to maintain busy. So what like for y'all are there some principles or some ways that y'all pursue, balance or harmony, whatever word you'd like to use in work, rest, and time with God?
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
Hey, it's tough for
We're
us too.
I think like being like honest and like very like vulnerable. I think for us, it's I'm not the most organized person. I'm not the most like I don't have everything. Like I'm not an agenda person. I'm learning to be because you get more done for sure. But for sure like you can't lose yourself in I think we love to be busy, but I think it's really easy to lose yourself. Like I'm still currently like still working on my other job, and that's just also like draining me kind of, and that's doing common rags, and there's so many functions and so many tasks to do that you can lose yourself. You can really like get frustrated, and then things don't go well. And so I think one of the things that we do is like it's cool, we're roommates, so we're like with each other a lot of the times. We're sharing
Yeah.
ideas, bouncing ideas off and off, which is great. But I think there's like room for you to like there's like days where you're like let's not touch the common rag subject, let's go dinner, and because it's our passion, because common rags clothing and it's our passion, like it would just somehow get in the
Yeah.
like get into the conversations. We come to the studio, we live like 12 minutes away from here. There's days that we come here 3 times a day throughout the day, like and so but I think like going back to like knowing your season, like what does that look like? Like I'm still kind of sleeping late and trying to wake up earlier. But, it's just knowing that it's not going to be like this forever. And there's things that you can also do to better those things. Like there's a lot of things that I need to work on, like maybe going to bed earlier, maybe start writing things down, start, setting there's time for this. I have to, go out with my friends. There's like I have a social life that's not just
You got a girlfriend,
business.
you gotta
I
spend
have a
time with.
girlfriend. I have
Yeah.
to take her out on dates. She's saying that I do. Like there's days that I have to be like, you know what, I can't do this. I have to do that. Priorities. And when all that aligns itself well, like there's a good turnout. Like there's a good, you know, the Lord is when you're faithful in the little, like the Lord is faithful big time. And so I would say I'm still in the process. Like, there's a lot of things that I can do better, but being patient with myself. Like I'm gonna get there. But I'm being patient because I can get frustrated real quick. Like, oh, I'm not doing this right. Like I'm not being as productive as I could be. And so it starts to mess me up more and more. And just being patient with myself is it's
Yeah.
kind of helpful.
I think we are learning to have those boundaries. I think it's a because we were not counting on such a growth. Like we were like, all right, we never saw like, okay, we're gonna have a store, like. So now we are kind of like fixing a lot of things, like even on my personal life, like it's like that routine, like how can you separate business with you, even with your relationship with God, like how do you keep up with that too? Now you have church, now you have friends, and then you have this desire to like grow your business, like this force inside of you where you're like, man, I just want to make it big, or I want, or I want to collab with these people, or like this, all these dreams, like this energy in your mind. But I think, like I said, God is graceful and God is good on okay, like fixing it on the way, like how can I do something better, like I think that's that right now, like that's where I'm at right now, like how to set those boundaries, like okay, this is work, this is common rags, and this is your personal life, and how can I keep my mental health or
Yeah.
everything on one place, like because that's tough, man.
Yeah.
Like dealing with like stress, like dealing with like anxiety, like dealing with all these topics. So then you need to go back to the Lord and be like, okay, it's gonna be fine.
Yeah. What do you guys find contentment in, to where we were reading, doing Bible study yesterday. A verse in Hebrews 13 talks about with whatever thing you have, be content in that.
Yeah.
Why? Because you know that the Lord is your helper.
Yeah.
Right. So what do you guys find contentment in just, as a business owner and people as well?
That's a good question. I think like we're super grateful where we're at right now, and like we're super just very grateful to God and
Yeah.
everything that He has placed in our lives. And what I see is like just the Lord has given us this common rags of this business for us to steward it. And I think like there's ups and downs like any other business, and I think like just being, I know this is a gift from God to us, and so um, I don't know. I think there's a lot to be content of. Like, I'm happy. Like I get to do this with friends. That's really like a
Yeah.
big thing. Like, I'm happy that I'm able to do it with like family, and I'm happy like my friends who are a part of this that I get to do it with them. It's so much better than having to like like outsource and like having to
Yep.
meet someone just for work. It's special how it's family. Like it truly, truly is. Like I get to do this with family. I usually it just feels right, you know. And so I'm super, super like happy and like just thankful that it's that way, you know, family, community, and like whatever we do, whether it's like creating a mood board, creating you know, whatever, cleaning, you know, like I get
Mm-hmm.
to do it with people that I want to do it with, and like
Yeah.
that's special. You don't get that all the time, you know. Like I think doing projects like these with people you love, and it's just it it's always a good time. It's always a good time. So
Yeah. So the last question we were kind of thinking about spending some time on, of which we talked about it a little bit while we were on the phone with Alex, was what are some of, I call them like heart controls, but what are some of like the checks and balances that y'all have in place to be able to help discern if a certain opportunity or something that y'all are interested in doing is like something that's genuinely of the spirit or if it's something that's of the flesh. Like, and so for an example, one of the,
Yeah.
and it can be like principles, it can be
yeah,
characteristics, whatever. And so like something for us is balance. It's something that the Lord's really told us if there's an opportunity for us to go on a trip or partner or something like that, there needs to be balance. And in each of those particular activities or programs, he's given us kind of characteristics for what balance means. And so, for example, we went out to LA in February, recorded with our friends Chaz and everyone out there. But one of the things the Lord told us was, okay, you need to balance the time that you spend creating with time serving. And so
That's
one of the
good.
biggest things for us to feel led to go out to LA was, okay, there's going to be outreach and service opportunities for us there so that we're not just creating. And so at that point, then Josue reached out to his buddy Tyrone. And from there, we went and did some outreach with them, help food distribution, everything like that. And so that's like an example for us that God gives us as a heart control. So what could be some of those things for y'all, you think? Or is it something that God's kind of been developing and will keep developing?
I don't I don't think really we don't really have like a specific word or something that we kind of are guided to be like, all right, this is from God and this is like
Yeah.
our flesh trying to make it happen.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things that we pay attention is like if it feels right.
Okay.
Like it has to like within ourselves, like it has to feel like we we know the sense of peace. We know what peace is.
Mm-hmm.
So like if it's like if it's peaceful, if it's like you have such a peace, like I'll do it. And if not, then I will say like, you know what, like
yeah,
I tend to be like I'm the guy that kind of like I feel it or not.
yeah. I'm
You
the
know,
adrenaline guy.
like
Let's go.
I'm
Yeah.
like, nah, man, like
Yeah,
like every single collab, everything that we've done, it's if it has felt right.
yeah,
Like so right. Like, okay, yeah, we had challenges, yeah, we had all these things happening, but like it felt right. Even at the end of and now probably it's gonna be on that's gonna be recorded, but even at the end of the Maverick City tour, like there was a time where all right, this is the time to like kind of like detach and like
like branch off.
yeah, we gotta
The season was kind of
yeah,
like
the season was
over.
coming over.
Yeah.
You know, like we felt it. Like it's just like yeah, all day long I'll go on tour with them. You know, like it was so fun. But and then being connected with them and all that, like it's super sick. You know, but then again, what you said, like your check and balances.
Yeah,
You know, you gotta be true to yourself, and like I'm not gonna do something that I'm not feeling or that is
Yep.
not right within my spirit, within myself.
Yeah.
So I think that's a clear example of something that we felt like it was coming to an end.
Yeah.
And we felt right. We
Yeah.
felt really right to, you know, like just being here in Dallas and like, you know, like we're just trying
Yeah.
to be local and like expand here and stuff.
Yeah, we expanded a lot
Yeah.
out, and then we realized that Dallas, which is our home, we weren't really like reaching them. You know,
Yeah.
so it was kind of like whoa.
So it's just by I don't know I don't even know how to express it, but it's just more like this feeling of peace and that it feels right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Discernment,
discernment to
yeah.
be like, hey, even every collab, because a lot of people are trying to do stuff with
Yeah.
us. Like, I think you guys are like the first people that we do a podcast.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
for
let's
real,
go.
like a lot of
Yeah,
people like
yeah.
try to hit us up and like, hey, we should do something, and then you know that feeling of like, oh, we should do something, and it's like, all right, cool, but like,
Yeah.
yeah, if we and we're not trying to boast or anything, but like, it's just like it has to feel right, you know, like everything that we do is like
Yeah.
like it has to hit, like it has to feel right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And there are other things that and then we make mistakes, like of course, like
Yeah.
we make mistakes by
Part of
okay partnering with the wrong people, and
Yeah.
then like then that's why I think since we're believers, like you gotta hear super like well,
Clearly.
like clear what God is
Yeah.
saying, because
Yeah.
at the end you end up partnering with the wrong people, and then it's a hustle, like
Yeah.
it's just like the
Yeah.
whole thing of like, oh dang, like like all these problems coming on your way and
Yeah.
stuff, and it's just a whole hustle
Yeah.
to like deal with it, you know. So now we rather like filter it by, okay, is this coming from God or is this your
Yeah.
flesh?
Yeah.
You know, like I think that's one of the key things that also we're very aggressive on. Like we're very like on the lookup, you know, like
Yeah.
okay, yeah, we can do this, we can partner, we can do this, but like okay, what's the motive? What's the intention? What's the because that's not our intention. Like whenever we did all these things with Maverick and Dante Bow and like all these people, like the intention wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna get something from you, you know, like.
Yeah.
And this is the
Yeah.
even like till this day, like I could be like in Atlanta, like with him, or we
Yep.
can be with all of them, you know, like because like I'm gonna be famous or like trying to fight a position, like no, because God gave it to me, like God is giving
Yeah.
me those opportunities, so I don't need to strive, you know, like literally if I was
Shoot, that's
the
a word.
like if we wanted to be like that, one of us could have been already in Atlanta
Yeah.
Yeah.
or connecting with all these people, and we could, to be honest, like I think we have the force to like make
Yeah.
things happen, but it's just it doesn't feel right, like that's not the vision, and then we're clear on our hearts that God
Yeah.
is here,
Yeah.
you know, like God is leading us, and like he's fulfilling his plan, and that's it. And then yeah, like we know all these people, but it's like all right, like it's all
Yeah.
cool, you know.
Yeah, like I think timing's just like filtering things down. Like, God, is this something that you've placed for us right now?
Yeah.
We were able to design Dante's two of his pieces that like really did well and it hit and everything. And so what we ended up seeing is like a lot of artists, a lot of like, Christian, in the Christian world, a lot of artists, big time like artists right now, even they ended up wanting to collab.
Yeah.
Like
Mm-hmm.
we had a couple of like, like text messages like, yo, let's collab on a piece. Like, you guys are crazy. Like, your designs, the way you guys do things. Like, I think it should be. And then we had this artist, good friend of ours. He said, yo, let's collab. Let's do a collab piece on this song. It's like one of his most selling, like
Yeah.
Popular
biggest
songs. Yeah.
biggest hits. And then I was like, yeah, I'm down. But it didn't feel like it was the time.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like, it's also the thing about timings. Like, it's not like we don't want to do it, or it just didn't feel like that was the time. Like, it didn't feel right. Like timings, knowing that what to say yes to and what to say no to, and like those decisions, they're big time
Yeah,
decisions.
they're
Like,
big time.
like we've said yes to a couple things that we're just like,
we had a big one that it was kind of like I think we messed up, like we designed for another big artist right now, and the manager was like, yeah, like he's so down like to do a whole collection.
We finished the whole collection.
A whole collection. So we were just like, I mean, like now that's where the flesh kicks in. Like I think that's a very
Yeah.
clear example of that. So it's like, oh, then like you're doing because for Dante, like we just did 2 pieces, like 2 shirts. That's it. But with this other artist, like it was a full on collection.
His first like solo album.
And then we were kind of like, man, this is so sick. Like the flesh kicking in, you know, like this is so sick. Like, man, he's so famous, blah blah. Like, I mean, like designing his whole collection, it's like, man, that's so sick.
It's
blah,
like
blah.
the dream that any designer in the Christian
Right
world
now,
would have.
yeah.
Like it's that dream.
And we did it. We designed it like, but it was
There's something.
something that it was not like feeling right.
Yeah.
So
All
even
along,
in the
all along.
designing process, like we were having trouble. Like we were not fully like having that inspiration. You know, like we felt like pressured to like prove ourselves in a way. You know,
Yeah.
Dang.
so we send the mock-ups, like we
They got
finished it,
approved.
and then he's like, yeah, he liked it, blah blah. Like the manager was like, yeah, like he likes all of them and stuff. Waited, and then I was like, all right, so when is he gonna introduce the collection? So he posted it on his Instagram, like he made it official. He got so many likes on that post, and like it was
great.
hype. And then everything was going pretty well, and I don't know what happened. And then he decided to go with other friend to do his collection,
To redo the collection.
like redo the collection.
Yeah.
And we were like, bro, you serious, bro? Like it was tough. Like it
Yeah.
was, and we didn't really talk about it because it was kind of like
we knew from the beginning that
like it was kind
You know
of
what I mean? It
hurtful.
was just-
Like
Yeah.
like we feel like, man, like it's just one of those things that I feel used, you know, like because like I said, everything that we design, like there's a substance behind it, you know. So by not releasing those pieces, like I feel like then like it was a waste,
Yeah,
you know. Like
yeah.
I just felt weird, you know. Like, and then the guy that he designed, we know this person, so we feel like
yeah.
some type of betrayal kind of deal.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it was kind
a
of
tough
weird.
one.
Yeah, it was weird, but
But it was that one that it
that's
comes
an
from the-
example of like
Exactly.
the flesh, like being
Yeah.
like, oh, then like we're gonna design for this big artist, you know. And
Yeah.
then from there,
Yeah.
like, you know, like
that helped. That
Yeah,
grew
that-
us a lot.
Yeah,
That
that's what I was
grew
gonna
us-
say.
Yeah,
Like that is like
big
such a
time.
good growing and learning opportunity. So like, and I mean, I'm saying things that y'all already know, but like, yeah, don't look at it as a waste.
Yeah.
Like, definitely look at it as a learning
Yeah,
opportunity.
yeah. No, it was big time learning. From there, we were actually like, you know, because like I think as like young, you know, a young brand and a young designers, like it's hard to say no to these big people when you're like, you know,
Yep.
you see yourself as like you're just starting off, you're a nobody, whatever. So it's kind of like hard, like up here, like it's hard to say no to those people.
Mm-hmm.
But then because of that situation, that grew us so much that we ended up getting like a lot of these other like, you know, like, hey, let's collab. And one thing is like to collab, and the other thing is like just designing for, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like this friend that ended up doing this guy's collection, he just designed it for him. But the cool thing is, and going back to like people are knowing Common Rags, like it was a collab, like it was a
Yeah.
collaboration, strict collaboration from Common Rags with this artist. And so because of that learning experience, we're able to it's not about saying no, it's about knowing where you're
Yeah.
at, like what God is telling you. It's not about saying no or yes.
Yeah.
But that situation, that learning experience grew us to being able to, you know, partner with the right people and saying no to the people that it's just not meant to happen at that point, you know, maybe
Yeah.
in the near future, maybe, you know, and some time after, but that really helped us like found that like balance that you were talking about, like
Yeah.
what do we say yes to, what do we say no to, and where are we with our own projects, because we found ourselves like losing ourselves in all these collaborations when we were, like I said, like this shirt, like the future is bright, like it had already been like it was a thing already, like people have been wanting this shirt for months, and so like, but we were so behind on our stuff that we were like kind of devoting ourselves to these projects, and it was just
Yeah.
they were big with a lot of responsibility, and it just, we learned to like slow down, like really slow down in the decision making process, because it if you say yeah, if it's a yes or a no, like it's gonna have consequences, good consequences, like great,
Yeah.
bomb, we loved it, everyone's happy, but then there's the negative consequences when you don't pay attention, when you don't really listen in. So that's
Yeah.
important. That, I think that's what leads you to making the right decisions, and like just finding that.
Exactly. And it's so good because God definitely isn't expecting you to be perfect right now. And He has grace in that and being able to redeem those mistakes, if we want to call them that, for everything in the long term.
Yeah.
And so it's so good, man. But do you have any last questions, man?
No, I'm good. I'm good. Thank you guys for, taking that time to share a lot of, different things with us.
Yeah.
Especially this being like a first, I guess, podcast interview
Yeah.
for you guys. I'm sure that'll prepare you guys, for future ones that you guys are kind of able to
Yeah,
take and
yeah.
do and all that good stuff. So I was able to learn a lot. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
that's
Thank
really
you guys
for
for
having
having
us.
us. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so cool to see y'all's maturity because it was fun. Like, this isn't a slight at him. I love him. But the second Josiah was like, oh, these are my boys. I'm like, oh, man, they're going to be young. They're going to be all hyped. They're going to be like everything like that. And it's just
Josiah?
like
Just like Salcedo.
Salcedo.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He's our other roommate. Yeah. Other roommate
Oh,
at the
right.
house. So, yeah. But so I was just like, oh, it's going to be a little bit to like wrangle these guys together. But no. And again, not saying he's immature. He's just
Yeah.
super high energy.
Yeah.
We're a little
I
bit,
can get like that.
That's what, like, we're a little bit, well, I'm a little bit more chill. He's charismatic, but something like it. Y'all have any last things y'all would like to share, man?
Nah, we're super grateful,
Yeah.
and we enjoyed this, and hopefully we can do it in the near future again.
Yeah. Anytime,
Yeah.
man. Anytime.
do
So
it.
awesome. And thanks for opening up the shop. too.
Yeah,
Being able to
anytime.
record on set.
Yeah,
Sick.
It's
So
a shot.
Yeah. So awesome. Well, bet y'all, that'll be a wrap for us today. Thank y'all so much for having us again. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. If you'd like to support Common Rags, buy any vintage clothes, buy any of their collections from them, we'll have all of the links in the description below for you to be able to check that out. All of everything for Perspectives is going to be in the description below as well. If you'd like to support us, the podcast, outreaches, everything like that. So thank y'all so much again for tuning in. Until next time, much love. God bless.